Hi, you're listening to After Dinner Conversations, short stories for long discussions. What that means is we get short stories, we select those short stories, and then we discuss them specifically about the ethics and the morality of the choices the characters and the situations put us in. Why did you do this? What makes you do this? What makes us good people? What's the nature of truth, goodness, all of that sort of stuff. And hopefully we're all better, smarter people for it and learn a little bit about why we think the way we think. So thank you for listening.
Welcome back again to the social distancing edition of After Dinner Conversations, short stories for long discussions. I am your co-host, Kolby, with co-host Ashley. Hello.
And hi, I am Jeremy.
There you go, and Jeremy. And so we are all set to go. In case you're joining us for the first time, After Dinner Conversation is short stories for long discussions. What that means is you read the story that After Dinner Conversation puts out. We put out short stories every week. You then come to the podcast. You listen to the podcast. Ideally, you've read the story. You talk to your friends. You buy the book. You like, subscribe. You tell your friends. And all of your greatest wishes come true. I think that's how it works. And so, yeah. Oh, also, we do have a writing contest going on right now, as well as a ebook and paperback book out for season 1, which is our 25, I believe, best stories from season 1. Although we are now in season 2, so we're now talking about stories that will eventually be out in book 2. Although they're also available online and everywhere right now. Just do a search for After Dinner Conversation. It'll all make sense. Okay, so we've got a new story, Jeremy. What is it? The Book of Approved Words. Who wrote this thing?
The Book of Approved Words. I see why you gave me this one for the intro, because you can't pronounce this name either. W.N.
No.
Pienton? P-I-E. Yeah, I don't know. Pienton. W.N.
Okay.
Pienton. So it's a Book of Approved Words. It's a pretty short story, but I liked it. Basically, it's about an author, an approved author in a dystopian society, who goes through just a couple of days of trying to write, basically writing movie reviews. Has to go to the Bureau of Approved Words to get everything approved, to pick up the new dictionary, which they're just calling the Book of Approved Words. And as part of this, he meets his brother, who's a dropout from society because he's been banned from writing, and is working with a group to, overthrow this dystopian society, and they basically have a plan to publish a dictionary. So it's a really short day in the life of this approved author, and his leaving the society.
Okay. It's really... Did it remind you a little bit of 1984? Ashley and I were talking about that. She has not read 1984, and I'm really pushing her to read it.
It makes me want to read it.
And a little bit
now.
of Brazil. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. Very similar.
I did not.
But really similar idea of just this dystopian society where books are banned, words are banned. It definitely had that feel to it.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, I'm curious on your take on this. I've definitely got my own. Before we get into the whole thing, why do you think the idea of banned words comes up so often in sort of dystopian science fiction literature?
It's just because I don't know, that the whole idea that if you ban these words and people aren't using these words, then it makes people nicer to each other, easier to control.
Okay.
A little two sides of that.
Control thought.
Right. Easier to control thought if people aren't using words that are, or ideas that are scary to the totalitarian regime.
Sure. And so this time, like in 1984 or in, Fahrenheit 451 or all of the various book banning, probably Brazil, usually it's related to keeping dissonance, discontent at bay, right? Like you remove the word for democracy, you remove the word for freedom, you remove the word for whatever. That's not really what they're doing here, though, which I thought was an interesting take. They're doing it's a more millennial version of removing words. Did you notice the words they were removing?
Well, like plethora.
Like, yeah, and Easter and retarded was another one that was removed from the dictionary. Which, at least for me, I don't know if you got this, Ashley, it led me to believe that it wasn't about stopping. I mean, maybe it also was about stopping, people from being unhappy with the government, but it was also just about creating a more PC place, like a place where everyone got a participant prize and got a
Yeah, so I definitely...
So we talked about the participant medal problems before.
I did definitely...
No one's feelings get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I did get the vibe. It's the PC-controlled words kind of scenario, where they just want to be politically correct about everything and not say things that are offensive. So, yes, totally get that.
Yeah, and I thought that was a take on it I had not seen before, which I thought was really interesting because, like, I remember when the Starbucks cup thing came out, which is a war on Christmas, but nobody worries about the stuff on the bottom of the In-N-Out cups,
right?
The drink cups. That it's not like it's a war on atheism. There's never a war on atheism.
They have little, for those that don't know, on In-N-Out. On the bottom of their cups and on the bottom of their packaging, they usually have like the
Proverbs,
the snippet of a verse.
Yeah, like
Proverbs.
John 3:16 or whatever. But they're able to do that because they're a private company, the same way Hobby Lobby is able to, not offer contraceptives. I think in their
not pay for contraceptives in their
healthcare package. Right. It's a private company. You don't have to work there. It's not that the government is instituting it, and so I think it's the same idea here. And so I thought that was an interesting take. In the sense that it wasn't, in the 1950s and 60s when 1984 came out, the big fear was about, are we going to start to limit people's thought against government freedoms? And now it seems like this story is reflecting that the bigger fear is, are we going to limit people's thoughts because it just offends other people, not that it offends the government? I thought that was a really cool take on this.
Well, kind of going off of that, how many times were books allowed just even a decade ago and it was the parents who were upset because it has one word in it? So the parents were the uprising and saying, we don't want our kid learning about this book. So it's easy to say, oh, it's the government imposing this, but what if this was a movement started by parents in schools saying, we don't want our kids reading this book because it has this one word into it, which is...
I have a story about that.
Which is what we're kind of seeing more and more. It transfers over even just from reading. One of my friends, her daughter was going to school and they were going to dissect a cat, and she was appalled because she was appalled, not because her daughter was.
Her daughter wasn't appalled?
From what I understand, no. Okay. She was just so disturbed that this was even a thing. There's our cat. If you guys are watching on YouTube, Jeremy's got his kitty. Yeah. We miss being at La Guitarra in Tempe, so they're closed down right now with the stay-at-home orders. But anyway, that's another example of wanting to shut something down because it's offensive to one person or a group of people, whereas is it really that offensive? What by eliminating this, what are you trying to eliminate? I guess that's really what it comes down to.
So in that case of your friend's cat dissection, mom cat dissection thing, what was the mom's complaint?
It was just so disturbing that they're doing it on a cat, which is like supposed to be loved, and there's so many emotional attachments that we have to cats. And then secondly, that it was forced upon her daughter. Now, if I remember when I was in high school and we had to do that, if you were seriously opposed, you could do more of a like workbook way around it.
It's just not nearly as cool.
Yeah. My rebuttal was, you might be disturbed by this, but this might don't knock it until you've tried it. Like, let her daughter have a chance. For me, I remember doing this my sophomore year of high school. This opened up my world to medicine. There really is something different about actually working hands-on. And for me, I was like, listen, the cat's not anymore dead. Your daughter using it for scientific purposes isn't going to like make it come back to life. Like, it's already dead. Like she's not going to make it more dead. She's not the one mutilating it or
They
anything.
didn't kill the cat for the thing. It died on its own accord somehow.
Well, I mean, the fact that I don't know the history of it, but you would at least hope so that they're using cats that were donated that had passed away. Anyway,
Humane Society.
yeah, so it becomes this, what are you trying to do by eliminating it? Who are you trying to protecting? Are you trying to protect your own, like, disgust? Because you didn't like it. Just because you didn't like it doesn't mean other people will. So just because you were offended by one word doesn't mean other people are.
So it's not that she thought that there wasn't value in dissecting a cat. She was just offended that cats were being dissected.
I don't think she saw there was value. Why can't you just do it in... I think it was both. I think, why can't we just do it in a textbook? Why do you have to do it hands-on? And I'll tell you, at least from my experience, nothing beats the hands-on experience.
Yeah. Jeremy, are there...
I don't know what other implications. That was just my example of how to transfer this from words to other situations.
Jeremy, so your second daughter, about to graduate from high school. Is there any parent-teacher slip that ever gave you pause to sign?
Oh, no. None of the stuff they've done has been risque.
Yeah. Well, it's a public high school. So I'll tell you the one time I've ever had a parent really get upset and opt out, so to speak. And it was totally not what I expected, because I taught, for 5 years at a prep school. I was teaching an excerpt from Ayn Rand. And the part of the excerpt was I am John Galt, which is basically like Ayn Rand at her most like Ayn Randian.
Yes.
And it was this part where the guy goes in this long 30-page speech about we are the smart people and you need us, and you have taxed us and burdened us so much with supporting all of you that we have chosen non-participation in you. And it was basically his like call to arms to tell all of the average people, like, we're out, peace out, like we're gone, because you've failed to accept that we're awesome and you depend on us.
Right.
And I had a parent who said, and there's not a single offensive word in there. It's like it's not like Huck Finn where the N word is in there or something. And the parent called me up, or he called the principal of the school actually, who then contacted me, who said, I don't want my daughter reading Ayn Rand because I don't want my daughter to be exposed to someone who is so selfish, which is a noble reason to opt out. I agree. Ayn Rand personally makes my skin crawl. I think that she, it's.
I think it's normal parent behavior to want to protect your child.
Right.
Yeah, it's just, her writing is the kind of thing that sounds good in 8th grade until you realize that people are interconnected and it's in your best interest to help other people as well. But and so that was where I assumed what we would discuss. Like we would basically pick apart Ayn Rand and talk about why she's a nutbag, or we wouldn't, because it's a Socratic discussion. But the parent didn't even want the kid to entertain the idea. So the offense wasn't with the word; the offense was with the idea.
Right.
And I don't know, man. Like, this goes back to our story. I guess we should bring it back to the story. I don't know. Like this trope of like, if you remove words, you remove ideas. I am like 65% of the way there. I don't know if removing a word removes an idea.
I don't think it does.
From your sort of...
No, I think the ideas are always there, and just because the words aren't, the.
So you think the ideas come first, and you think the ideas come first, and the words come second?
They're really independent. You're always finding new words to express the same idea. That's to go back to the term retard or retarded. That is just the newest version of it. Before that it was mooncalf. Before that it was idiot. There were
mooncalf. That's a word.
Yeah, actually that
was a word
even longer ago. It was idiot. It was all of these kind of words to describe people with mental disabilities. It has just progressed, and it was a word that was normally used, but then people use it as an insult to somebody else, derisively, and so the people that it's actually supposed to represent become offended that you're using this word to describes my child's mental state to denigrate your friends, this is what's offensive. And it doesn't matter what the word is, there's always going to be a new word.
And so I think that's why I'm only 60% of the way there, is because the thing that makes the word offensive is not the word, it's the way you mean it when you say it, right? Mm-hmm. Like if I just went around and started calling everyone a cowboy, but I said it like, come on, cowboy. Like I feel like eventually I could turn the word cowboy into a slur, right? And then in 40 years, some organization would be like, hey, let's not use the word cowboy anymore. That's kind of offensive. We'd really prefer you use the word person who works on a ranch.
Right. Ranch hand.
And so I feel
hand.
like ranch hand, right? And so I feel like that's why I'm not sure that this trope, although it's a heavily used trope in science fiction and in sort of dystopian futures, I don't know if I believe it because I don't know, because the offense is in the
idea,
it's in the intonation, right? And I don't know if you can remove that idea. I mean, well, you also grew up in Texas. I can tell you, I rarely heard the N-word in Texas. I heard it a lot more in New York State, oddly enough. But I met lots of racist people in Texas, right? Yeah. And they were racist without ever using a racial slur, like really legit, like racist, without using a racial slur, because they knew that was not appropriate to use. But God forbid, my daughter ever dated one of them, and you're just like...
I grew up in a smaller town, Texas, and it was used a lot. So.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, I was...
See, maybe we
you
got
were
some
in the
culture
big city.
In Richmond, Rosenberg. Yeah, maybe we got some culture in the big city.
My small city, I never heard of it at all. I was also grew up very sheltered, so... And we had people of all different colors and backgrounds in our neighborhood, and...
Hi, this is Kolby, and you are listening to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. But you already knew that, didn't you? If you'd like to support what we do at After Dinner Conversation, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/afterdinnerconversation. That's right, for as little as $5 a month, you can support thoughtful conversations like the one you're listening to. And as an added incentive for being a Patreon supporter, you'll get early access to new short stories and ad-free podcasts, meaning you'll never have to listen to this blurb again. At higher levels of support, you'll be able to vote on which short stories become podcast discussions, and you'll even be able to submit questions for us to discuss during these podcasts. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being the kind of person that supports thoughtful discussion.
My small city, I never heard of it at all. I was also grew up very sheltered, so... And we had people of all different colors and backgrounds in our neighborhood, and...
So what do you think, Ashley? Do you think that removing a word removes the sort of idea, the way this story meant it? That, you remove the word retarded, and you've taken away the offensive part of it. You remove the word Christmas or Easter, and you've sort of no longer offended those of non-Christian faith. Do you think that this process could be helpful, I guess is my question.
I think it comes down to like a respect issue, because those that, for just going back to the retard example, those with mental illness didn't want to have their term turned into a slang that was demeaning to people. So that's, I think, where kind of the uprising came. Don't call us that word. We are mentally handicapped. We are
there's always a new term.
Needs. And it's a new term, and to kind of like elevate their status above that word. So by eliminating the R word, are you really? I mean, how many of us still use that as a slang? I don't. I used to say it all the time as a kid before it was kind of outlawed or kind of, the whole image was shifted, and I think it just brought about knowledge like, hey, this isn't very nice. Like these are people that so this slang is used was actually used to describe their handicap or their mental state or their.
So what do you think now? So let's say you're a 14-year-old kid who sort of has had the word retarded sort of removed from their working vocabulary just because their parents don't say it, their school doesn't say it. It's not, when I was reading this, I was reminded of the old and the new version of the Bad News Bears, by the way. where like so many of the words have been removed.
We watched that movie. My gosh, I sat there like wide-eyed, like I can't believe this was allowed in a movie. I can't believe this was allowed in a movie. Now, was I offended by it?
The kids are saying racial slurs.
I was more shocked by it because, one, you never hear those terms anymore. I think it needs to become like an educational thing. Like Jeremy just listed all the other terms previously that were used for this group. And it makes you go, okay, as a society, we're just trying to put other people down. And so we're just picking on different words. That's never going to go away.
I just want to, I want a word that I can put you down with that doesn't offend anybody. Like, I want to say, I seriously, no, this is not a joke.
So that's a great example. Why do we have to use derogatory terms to put some...
Because some people, I think, derogatory thoughts about.
Why do we have to pick on a group to put other people down? That's a very valid point.
Right, you know, so I need a word that I can use to offend... But you don't want to bump the table.
Oh, sorry.
I want a word that I can use to say that I do not prefer someone... that is stronger than the phrase "I do not prefer you." That does not relate to someone's gender, to their sexual orientation, to their mental abilities, to their physical disabilities. Because I genuinely think, like, hey, you know what? I don't want to offend people who have things that they're uncomfortable about, their weight, whatever. But I sure would like to offend you. And so I need a word that I can offend a person with that isn't like, doesn't have like splash.
I got one for
So
you.
let's bring it back.
Let's hear it. Wait, Jerry's got one for me.
You're such a Kolby.
I like it.
No, that's all the other Kolbys out
Oh,
there.
yeah,
though.
yeah,
They
yeah,
wouldn't
okay.
like. Well, okay, so I'd like to bring that up. There's this whole
Don't be
thing.
a Homer.
Don't
No
be.
Homer's
Don't be a Karen. There was.
Oh, that's right.
don't know if you
I
guys
did hear
have used
about
this.
that.
People have been using
Don't be a Karen.
the word Karen to indicate a certain. My understanding is a white female that asks for the manager every single time. That's becoming now a backlash because all people named Karen, now not all, but there are some people that find that demeaning to someone whose name is Karen. And that's a great example of what's happening right now. Now, what I want to know, why, you mentioned you want to say something to someone that is just super offensive to them.
Yes, I want them to know
Why?
that.
Why can't you just say, hey, I really dislike you? Why do you need to offend them?
Sometimes I want something that are fighting words. Sometimes I want to say something to someone that when they hear it, they think I should punch this guy because he has said something so offensive to me that... Because sometimes
that must be a boy thing.
Sometimes I feel that way about people.
Oh my gosh!
Sometimes I don't feel like, I think those were poor choices you made just now. Like that does not express what I'm feeling inside.
How much better would the society be if we communicated effectively then, rather than putting each other down? That's what I'm getting at.
What?
That's what I'm getting at. Now, I'm not disagreeing. There are definitely times when you just want to like slam it to the other person and make them feel horrible about themselves. But do you have to do it at the expense of someone else?
I'm just saying.
And do you have to do it to get a rise?
Right.
That's really all you want to do is you want to get under their skin and get a rise out of them. What does that...
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the outcome of that?
Now, that's a different discussion, though. That discussion is, should I be more empathetic to other people? Like I'll give you an example. Years ago when I lived in LA, I was getting on a Southwest flight or something like that. I was at the very end of the line because it's Southwest. Everyone gets on and there's no assigned seating and whatever. And this lady walks up and cuts in front of me. Now there's like 100 people in line. I'm the 101st person. And she cuts in front of just me, right? And I look to her and I'm like, let me guess, you're from LA going to Phoenix. And she's like, what? I'm like, because nobody from Phoenix would do what you just did. And because like only in LA would they cut in front. It's like only in LA did I ever have to knock on the door and be like, hey, quit doing cocaine in the bathroom. I have to pee. Sometimes I think you're making bad life choices does not convey what I'm feeling inside. I don't know.
So the issue isn't that we have a lack of words to choose from, is we don't have enough words that convey our frustration without putting another person down in a different context, in a different group. So we actually need more words.
And I think this is the thing that this story is really getting at. See, I tied that together. I think, by the way, Jeremy, you're breathing a little bit there. You got to like sort that out. There you go.
Wait, he's breathing? No,
Yeah.
Jeremy,
No,
don't breathe. No.
Don't be such a Colby. Don't be such a Colby.
Hashtag don't be such a Colby. This
You
is,
gotta not.
there's our
There
trending.
you go. Yeah, great. I totally lost my train of thought. You guys got me. But
You
Oh,
brought
he
it back
needs
into
to get-
the,
he
you
needs
brought
more
it back
words.
together.
Yeah, so to bring it back to the story, I think that's what this story is trying to do and what this society is trying to do. They're not trying to just remove words like the way we're talking about, like changing it from retarded to mental disability to idiot to whatever. They're trying to remove the emotion, right? If we strip away all of the words that express like when you're feeling level 10, then you won't feel level 10. Right? If we smooth out all of the roughest words, then we may smooth out all of the roughest thoughts. That I'm actually a little more on board with maybe than just because I feel like the changing the words is just a bop-a-mole game.
Right.
Yeah, but it's still going to give a bigger rise, maybe not to the grandest of scale, but there's still going to be a smaller group that get offended to a 10 with that new word that comes
Well, that's the
up
part I
that
don't
people
know. Right?
use.
Like I don't know. Do you think, Jeremy? Like, sorry, I'm trying to circle it around because I know the camera has to jump back and forth here for us. Do you think if you remove all of the sort of words with rough edges, that another word just takes its place, or do you think that that it does start to remove some of the rough-edged emotions?
I don't think it's going to remove the emotions because the emotions aren't based on the words; they're based on the people. You know, and to a point, bring
Yeah.
it back to the story. There was the brief section where he's getting reviewed about his movie reviews. You know, and they're like,
Oh yeah,
"What's
they
the
all have to
message
be
you're
good.
attempting to convey?" He's like, "I thought it was pretty clear. Yeah, I don't care for the film. It's my honest opinion." And they're like, "Well, you're too pessimistic. It's the third negative article you've written." And he's like, "Well, they just have to stop making bad movies." You know, that really
Yeah.
isn't anything about the words he's using. They're really
That's a great
trying
point.
to not have negative emotions and thoughts.
This is the Lego movie. The everything is awesome.
Oh, yes!
Where they have to live in a society where everything is good. And remember, he's like, I think I'm mad or whatever because he doesn't even understand it because of society. You're right. That's what they're trying to do, right? And that's why he has to write the 5-star music review for music that he
Couldn't listen to.
You know, thinks is not good music. Yeah.
Isn't that also like the Ryan Reynolds film that's supposed to come out where he just is like, this is just life. Like, this
Right.
is, everything is good. Now, granted, I haven't seen the movie. The movie's not out yet, but...
Yeah. I had another question for you, Jeremy, and I'm going to plug my laptop in because I apparently forgot to while you're answering this. So take your time on the answer, and this will be one of our last ones. Oh, okay, so Ashley's going to do it. Never mind. So my question is this. Do you think, have you researched this first off, but do you think that there are more or less words being used by the average person today than there were 200 years ago?
I would say there are fewer words being used today than 200 years ago.
Did you research it?
I
or are
did
you
not,
guessing?
but I'm guessing, and it might be in, you know, the liberal education crowd 200 years ago. The ones that went to university got the liberal education. You know, you didn't major in business. You just learned philosophy and maths, and
You just read
books.
Yeah.
They had a better vocabulary, but
Did you-
still, I mean, that was a different class to that.
So not to steal
Go
a
ahead.
line from you, but I researched this, and you are absolutely correct. They found that because you know Google is indexing all of the books that have ever
Yeah.
been written, and they also compared all of those words that were used in books to SAT vocabulary scores and all that, and they adjusted it for education. So that, you know, college scores are compared to college scores and community college scores and high school to high school, all that. And when they did all this huge data set analysis, they found that across the board, everyone used and knew between 1970 and today about 20 to 25% fewer words in their sort of working, functioning vocabulary. And then the articles I read were about why do we think that is. And one of the things is exactly what you said. This idea that we're not as literary as we were. And the other theory is that because authors want to be mass published authors, like John Grisham or something, they need to write in a mass publishable vocabulary.
Well, didn't they say at USA Today is written at a 5th grade level?
Yeah, 5th or 6th grade. All newspapers are.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so one last circle around, and we'll call it quits so we don't go way over this time like we did on our last one. Jeremy, any last thoughts on this? Things that you wish you had seen, that you wish this had done or talked about, or that you particularly liked or didn't like?
No. I feel like this story is really too short to get to that. It could have been longer and gone into a lot more details and a lot more ideas. But it's a solid start to something more.
It's like 8 pages of what 1984 did in 300.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
The only thing in this story that made me wonder, like kind of provoked my thought as well, was the fact that he decided to jump in and join the rebellion at the time when he did. It seems like everyone who has been ostracized and is now like banned, and he's willing to give up his licensure and all this. So early on, it seems like in the rebellion, because it just seems like regulations just keep growing and growing. It's like he could have stayed in to be the liaison. Be the mole to keep leaking the information. But then again, the regulations and the tracking have gotten so stringent. It's only a matter of time before he got caught, so he might as well go out on his own terms. I wonder how far along they are in that process of the rebellion and where it goes from there. Like, why did he choose that moment to bow out from the writing community?
Yeah. That was my complaint with the story. If I had any complaint, I liked the story in the sense that it was a very short version of a very straightforward idea, right? We didn't get 35 pages to get us one question, and I liked that. The part that was frustrating to me, I agree, same thing, is I felt like uploading the old version of the dictionary doesn't overthrow the government. It just makes you an enemy of the people, right? Like, it makes you an enemy of the state. Mm-hmm. And so I felt like this is chapter 0.05 of this story that's going to happen. And like, you're benched now forever for what probably isn't going to do much good.
I just wanted to know more about the rebellion. What else are they doing?
Yeah.
Are they just eventually going to pluck every single author out of the industry and then the whole system collapses because then no one's there to provide information? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. At any rate, thank you for watching After Dinner Conversation, the social distancing edition. We always have a great time doing these. Please like, subscribe. We've got a book out for sale right now, After Dinner Conversation Season 1. You can get it on Amazon. We also have a writing contest going right now. It's our 3rd one. We get lots of great submissions. We are nearly done even putting together Season 2. That's supposed to come out in August as another book. And thank you for joining us. And let your friends know about this. One of the statistics I read was something like 90% of the podcasts that people listen to, they listen to because a friend recommended it. It's not like advertising really works with podcasts the same way it does with other stuff. So if you do enjoy this, just shoot a quick email to a friend and be like, hey, I really like After Dinner Conversation. Give it a listen. Hopefully we can continue to spread the word about having sort of relevant, intelligent-ish conversations, and you'll learn not to be such a Kolby.
By the way, if you want to be kind of like having this discussion as well, you also started up a Facebook group.
Yeah, we started up a Facebook discussion group because we're on Patreon. And so if you sign up for Patreon at Patreon/After Dinner Conversation, then you get access to our closed Facebook group. And every week I host this discussion. So you could actually have this discussion with other readers who have read the same stories. It's like a virtual book club. We've got about half a dozen people right now that chime in each week. And it's only $5 a month to sign up on Patreon. It's not expensive. And so, I would love to have more people in that Facebook group doing this. So thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
If If you've enjoyed listening to this, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. You know, the vast majority of people listen haven't liked and subscribed, which means maybe it shows up in your algorithm, maybe it doesn't. So don't leave that to chance. Just go ahead and hit that button, and we'd sure appreciate that. And that way we can keep doing what we're doing, and you're not left to the whims of some algorithm. Thanks.